Good morning, and thanks for joining us today. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge some of the important guests with us today. Steve Ballone, Suffolk County Executive and the member of the Penn Station Task Force. Ed Mangano, I'm sorry? Want me to do this the old-fashioned way? Steve Ballone, Suffolk County Executive. Ed Mangano, Nassau County Executive and member of the Penn Station Task Force. Are you still having trouble back there? We'll try to resolve it before I continue. But that means the county executives get another introduction. Has everybody got it now? Okay. Has everyone got it now? Okay, thank you. Having declaimed their right to be introduced a second time, we also have former MTA Chairman Joe Loda, Senior Vice President, Vice Dean, and Chief of Staff of the NYU Langone Medical Center. He's also a member of the Penn Station Task Force. Kathy Weil, President and CEO of the Partnership for New York City and Penn Station Task Force member. Kevin Law, President of the Long Island Association and also a member of the task force. Mark Ricks from Vornado Realty Trust, representing Steve Roth, who's a member of the task force as well. Veronica Vanderpool, MTA board member and executive director of the Tri-State Transportation Campaign. Ron Epstein from the New York State DOT. Pat Nowakowski, the president of the Long Island Railroad. Andrew Alpert, MTA board member and chairman of the New York City Transit Riders Council. Mark Epstein, Long Island Railroad Commuter Council chairman. And I believe we have a representative from the city's Department of Transportation, representing Commissioner Trottenberg. Okay. Then let me continue. As New Yorkers know, the conditions at Penn Station have become all but intolerable. Amtrak will soon begin necessary emergency repairs that will have consequences across the entire transit system. Today, the MTA is taking action to ease the burden on our travelers, working with the Governor's Penn Station Task Force and our team at the Long Island Railroad. We developed comprehensive and pragmatic solutions to alleviate delays and disruptions across the New York City metropolitan area. It wasn't simple, considering Penn Station is the heart of the region's transportation network, and in many ways is the lifeblood of our transit system. But thanks to the tremendous contributions of the task force and from our folks and the leadership of the MTA, today's mitigation plan will ensure that travelers on Long Island and across New York continue to have high-quality service options throughout the summer and the repair period. On behalf of the MTA, I want to thank the Governor's Penn Station Task Force and all those who are helping New York overcome this challenge. Now it's my pleasure to present to you Interim Director of the MTA, Ronnie Hakem.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and I echo my thanks to being joined by so many members of the Penn Station Task Force, as well as other leadership on Long Island and people who care about the service that we provide to our Long Island Railroad customers. I'll go through a brief set of slides to frame the issue. For us, and when we view our transportation system, including the Long Island Railroad and the subway system, we know that we are experiencing decades of underinvestment, as well as today being at maximum capacity. And so when we talk about the work that Amtrak is going to be doing over the summer, that exacerbates the challenge because it's really at the heart of our region's transportation system at Penn Station. And Penn and the tracks there are crumbling from chronically delayed maintenance. And that's the work that needs to be attended to in a very emergent manner. We know that our customers have had enough. We've heard them loud and clear. Dozens of weekly delays, whether it's a stalled train or a system breakdown, have rippling consequences, not just here, but throughout our entire region, as we move Long Island Railroad customers into Manhattan and back home again at the end of the day. Last month, the Penn Station Task Force was impaneled in order to create a plan and to work with us to create a plan that addresses Amtrak's summer of emergency repairs. The task force members are listed here on the slide, but as noted by our acting chairman Farrar in the introductory remarks, they really represent a broad swath of federal, state, local legislative leaders, as well as community leaders, our county executives, and our business leaders and the business community. The task force mission has become more urgent when we recently were informed by Amtrak that they need the full 8 weeks over the summer to make emergency improvements at Penn Station. Their work will limit the number of tracks available, and so that we know affects how many trains can be moved in and out of Penn Station. This visual is a diagram of the relationship of the platforms and the 21 tracks that are in Penn Station. And while 3 of those tracks will be worked on over the summer, it also affects the use of all of the tracks in and out of Penn. So it further challenges us to be as efficient as possible. We recognize that if we didn't do something, 9,600 of our Long Island Railroad commuters could be impacted by this construction period. And so today, we're announcing that we are executing a multi-agency action plan developed in consultation with our Penn Station Task Force to provide that emergency relief to Long Island Railroad rush hour passengers over the summer months. The plan has multiple facets to it. The first is increasing our rush hour capacity by lengthening trains and modifying some of our train schedules. The second, we'll be offering a bus and ferry service to and from more than a dozen locations to give our Long Island Railroad commuters options. And the third is accelerating construction and just to reduce congestion in our MTA crossings, as well as, and this starts now, launching a robust public awareness campaign. So the first element of the plan, increasing rush hour capacity by lengthening trains and modifying some train schedules. We know that the emergency construction forces us to modify service for approximately 9,600 Long Island Railroad commuters. So the challenge is, how do we minimize that impact on those customers? In order to do that, we were going to be adding 3 new trains to the schedule in the peak rush and 36 more cars on existing trains to increase capacity in order to accommodate all of those riders that currently move in and out of Penn will continue to be able to do so over the summer. That gets us to fill those 9,600 seats. We're also providing additional service to Hunters Point and Atlantic Terminal. That will give commuters another option of transferring to the subway for free in the morning at those stations. To create the added peak rush hour capacity, we do, though, have to cancel 3 overnight trains between 2 and 4 a.m. in order to move those trains back into the rush hour. But when we took a look at those trains, we realized that they only impact 90 riders in the overnight hours between that 2 and 4 a.m., and we'll be able to provide those riders with bus service to be able to keep them on the move as well. Developing our mitigation plan does highlight the need, though, for a more robust Long Island Railroad. This would have provided us additional track space and could have avoided canceling even those 3 overnight trains that I just referred to. And so it's another reason why the Long Island Railroad third track and double track projects are important to the future of Long Island Railroad customers. While these actions do offset the service disruptions, we are taking further steps to do more to provide more options for our Long Island Railroad commuters. The second element of the plan is providing new ferry and bus services to and from more than a dozen locations. So we'll be providing Long Islanders with an alternative transportation option by creating 2 new ferry routes that can accommodate 2,300 riders. The Long Islanders will have the option of boarding a ferry at Glen Cove for a ride to the 34th Street Pier. And they will also have the option at Long Island City to connect to the Hunters Point Ferry, and we will be augmenting what is already a city-provided service at Hunters Point. And we're also still looking for an option to provide an additional ferry route from the South Shore. We mentioned buses. We're going to be adding 200 coach buses to provide Long Islanders with a different option for coming in and out of Manhattan. We will be deploying buses from 8 park and ride locations throughout Long Island, and with parking spots to accommodate 2,900 cars. Where will those buses go? Some of the buses will go along 34th Street out of the Queens Midtown Tunnel, and will drop folks off on the east side of Manhattan at 34th Street and 3rd Avenue, and then will continue traveling across 34th Street to drop off between 7th and 8th Avenue near Penn Station now. The next set of buses will go up to 42nd Street because we know some of our riders want to end up in that Grand Central area, and will drop folks off along 42nd Street. Buses will run weekdays from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and again in the evening home from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. You know, every bus does take 50 cars off the road, so for every driver that gets out of his car and onto a bus, we think that's a good thing. And each of our bus park and ride locations will have customer assistance and hospitality tents offering things like free Taste New York food and beverages, but most importantly, providing on-site customer service to be able to answer questions and help out our customers who are trying this new service out. New York City has been working with us in partnership to coordinate the use of Hov lanes into the Queens Midtown Tunnel, and establishing those new bus stops that I referred to as well for the express buses, as well as facilitating bus lane enforcement across 34th Street and 42nd Street to make this bus service efficient. You know, Hov restrictions across the region will continue to be enforced by the state police in partnership with local law enforcement, whether it's the MTA bridges and tunnel officers, the NYPD in the city, or Suffolk and Nassau County Police as well, because the Hov violators will be ticketed and subject to a penalty of up to $243 and 2 points on their driver's license. We also want to, as another element of the plan, ease congestion on the roadways to reduce delays for buses. And here's where we have been working with our bridges and tunnels folks in order to try to encourage truckers to use the overnight hours for crossing into Manhattan. And so what we'll do is reduce truck tolls by 50% from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. on our crossings. In addition, state DOT is helping out by pre-deploying rapid response tow trucks, maintenance crews, and help trucks along the LIE, should there be a disabled vehicle, to clear that up as quickly as possible to ease the flow of traffic. And lastly, I mentioned launching a robust public awareness campaign. Our mission is to inform every affected Long Island Railroad rider about this action plan so that they have time to plan and be aware of what their options are. We're activating emergency banners on our mobile ticketing apps and at MTA.info to provide up-to-the-minute information to all of our riders. MTA.info is going to be the key. This website is a one-stop shop for all information. This week, we're also launching an awareness campaign that includes letters to employers encouraging flexible work hours and locations. We'll be promoting the plan and information through television, radio, print, mobile, and online ads. And of course, we'll be doing seat drops on every Long Island Railroad train. And as we approach July 8th and the beginning of this plan, we'll be increasing the number of customer service representatives we have available on trains or in stations in order to answer questions and to provide information. This is really an all-hands-on-deck action plan, and it's one that took a lot of collaboration and work. And so we thank our Penn Station Task Force members, we thank all of our MTA unions and employees, but most importantly, we thank all of our Long Island Railroad riders and appreciate their patience as we all collectively work through this summer together. Thank you.
I'd just like to say a few words on behalf of the task force. As you know, we just heard from Ronnie as well as Freddie about the crisis that's been created by Amtrak and the work that they need to do. On October 23rd, the governor put together a task force. It had both short-term and long-term objectives. Short-term was to figure out what to do this summer, and I believe this, what was just presented, is a robust plan that will alleviate and mitigate many of the problems that are being caused by Amtrak. And in the long run, we're going to continue to look at the operating and management failures of Amtrak and try to figure out how to continue going forward. I also would like to just state that the robust nature of the presentation, as well as everything that we're going to be doing, I mean, it's a multimodal approach. We're talking about buses, we're talking about ferries, we're talking about expanding the capacity on the railroad system, as well as a very robust communication plan. This has all been done with the purpose of making sure that we eliminate or alleviate as much of the problems that are being caused for the commuters from Long Island. So I want to thank my colleagues on the task force. I want to thank the governor for the opportunity to be involved in this. Most of all, I want to thank the dedicated MTA team that's worked very, very hard and will continue to work very, very hard to make sure that this plan is implemented in a way that helps all of the riders. Thank you.
Make sure that you can actually hear this. For members of the media, we're going to try to get to as many of you as possible. If you can please state your name and the outlet that you're from, and then we'll come around and give you a question as we go.
Andrew Siff from News 4. Question about subways. At the initial plan that the governor implemented a couple weeks ago, he talked about trains to Atlantic Terminal, trains to Jamaica, and people could enter the subway system. You didn't mention that at all today. Is that because of the ongoing signal problems with the subways, and that wouldn't be a viable way of getting people to work on time?
No, I think I did. Let me emphasize that you will be able to connect to the number 7 at Hunter's Point. You'll be able to connect to the 9 lines at Atlantic Terminal as well as at Jamaica.
Just as sort of a clarification follow-up to that, can the subway system, which has been less than reliable of lately during peak times, handle the people who would normally be taking the Long Island Railroad?
Yes is the short answer to that, Andrew. An incredible amount of granularity has gone into planning for this and identifying the times of day when those riders would be entering the subway system and ensuring the flexibility of the system to absorb those additional riders. So thanks for that follow-up.
Hi, Juliette Papa from 1010 Wins. Good morning.
Good morning.
Are you going to be providing bus lanes and or truck lanes for these trucks so that they just don't get in the way of the other traffic, assuming that more people would probably be in their cars?
The HOV lanes will continue to be fully operational, and our buses, we anticipate, will be in those HOV lanes. There won't be a change except for the use of buses in the HOV lanes.
Can you hear me? Michael Aronson from the Daily News. How many trains are you canceling? I'm guessing you're canceling 10 trains. That's about 9,600 people. And can you delineate which trains? You know, are they in the Babylon branch, or where are they coming from? Mm-hmm. And all of this is to accommodate those 10 canceled trains, right?
So let me answer with specificity. In the morning, there currently are 98 trains that move in and out of Penn Station. We are canceling 2 of those trains. Those trains will be delineated and new schedules will be issued so that people will be able to see where they need to make adjustments. But more importantly, we're also adding 3 trains in the morning rush. We're adding and lengthening trains so as to maintain the status quo of the number of seats. So 88,000 people currently ride in and out of Penn Station today. 88,000 people will be accommodated in this plan, moving in and out of Penn Station over the summer.
Hi, Dan Rivoli from the Daily News. Can you explain how the MTA is getting the subway ready in preparation for these repairs, and where specifically are you adding service or augmenting it?
Probably the best example, Dan, for that is looking at the number 7 line at Hunters Point, where we know that we will have 3 Long Island Railroad trains terminating at Hunters Point. We know the hour of the day that they will be arriving, and working with the Department of Subways to be able to short-turn some number 7 service in order to be able to accommodate and pick up those riders in a timely and reliable way.
Hello, two-parter here. First, so 2 canceled trains in the morning commute. Are there others that are being rerouted? I know New Jersey Transit had to cut 6 trains an hour. So how does that compare? Did you get a better deal than New Jersey Transit? And part 2 is, how are you paying for all of this?
So as compared to New Jersey Transit and the Long Island Railroad, we have competing uses and needs. Everybody knows that the Long Island Railroad needs more platform space in Penn. What we've been able to do, though, is accommodate the same number of customers in and out of Penn. How did we do that? We added 3 more trains coming in the morning, which is why we had to cancel those other overnight trains between 2 and 4 a.m. to be able to move that service into the rush hour. We then looked at the length of train car sets, and we added 36 cars to those train car sets so as to be able to increase the capacity of the trains, keeping the status quo of those 9,600 people impacted. There will be diversions. There will be 5 trains diverted to Atlantic Terminal for that subway connection. There will be another 5 trains at Jamaica where customers will have the choice of either transferring to another train at Jamaica across the platform, or go to the subway if that works better for their commute. Or go to Hunters Point, where 3 trains will terminate at Hunters Point. And there you have 2 choices. You can jump on the number 7, or you can jump on the ferry at Long Island City. I know who's not going to pay for it, and that's going to be the Long Island Railroad customer. Right now, we're exploring all of our options in terms of how to pay for this plan.
Good morning, Arthur Chen from Fox 5, and thank you for doing this. While we look at the problems that Amtrak has had at Penn Station, is there something that the MTA is absorbing from observing what happened there in terms of maybe some sort of neglect of their investment in that infrastructure there? Is there any look at that, and taking a look at how rough it's been for subway riders in the city in particular, to see if there's any sort of lesson to be absorbed from it, or is it an irrelevant connection?
I don't think there's a direct connection between the work that Amtrak and their engineers need to do over the summer and the subway work that we're undertaking. But I will say this, which is that we will be watching Amtrak's progress on a daily basis. We will be monitoring the work that they're doing. They've hired a premier engineering firm to assist them with scheduling that work. We'll be watching that and receiving regular reports. And we, in turn, will be updating our Long Island Railroad customers as well. We'll be using that website that I referred to provide progress reports on how the work is going.
Hi, Alfonso Castillo with Newsday. 2 things. Can you clarify what, if any, cancellations and diversions there are in the evening peak? And also, I heard no mention of any kind of fare reduction, unlike New Jersey Transit, that look to cut fares for the affected passengers.
you talk about why you chose not to?
Sure. Our focus and priority has been providing that sort of multifaceted plan that we talked about, getting buses, putting 200 coach buses available for customers, increasing a new ferry service from Glen Cove over to 34th Street for those customers that works best for them, or connecting and supplementing the existing city ferry service at Hunters Point. So we've really invested in trying to create an alternate service strategy. In terms of the evening rush hour, and you know that our evening rush hour is a little different than our morning rush hour. The evening rush, while the formal hours of it might be 4 to 8, if you go to Penn Station at 3, you know that you're starting to see crowds building because the evening rush is more spread out. So out of the 87 trains that currently leave Penn Station today, there will be some cancellation and combinations of trains, about 7 of them. There will also be 3 trains that will originate at Atlantic Terminal, 3 trains that will originate at Hunters Point, and then four that will originate at Jamaica. So we will also be communicating effectively to our customers on both sides of the rush hour. Keep in mind that off-peak service is not impacted at all. Weekend service, not changed at all. So to the extent that people can change their hours of travel and move closer to the shoulders of the peak and move out of the peak hour, that's the best in terms of having maintained that steady state of the schedules.
Can you clarify when you say Hunters Point, those 3 trains in the morning and the evening are in addition to their regular schedule trains?
Yes, yes.
Hi, guys. Greg Mocker, Pix 11 News. 2 quick things. One is Amtrak going to Grand Central? And then also, certainly, it's going to be rough no matter what. So what would you want riders to know? Plan how much more time? Expect delays. Could you get a little more specific on how it may actually be?
Sure. The first question is, we do have an agreement with Amtrak. They will be bringing a small part of their Empire service into Grand Central. We think currently they're looking at 6 trains, 3 in, 3 out. So that can also provide some relief at Penn as well. And then in terms of riders, obviously it's going to be a long, hot summer. We want people to receive and really look at all the information that we're putting out so that they know what their options are and can think through what works best for where they're commuting to and from. And try different elements of the service. You know, a bus service out of Long Island is a new experience for people. This will and we're all in it together. The idea of this service plan is to be as responsive to our customers' needs as possible. So to the extent that we need to tweak buses or do something different with ferries, we'll be out there, and we will have lots of supervision staff out in all of these locations to be able to manage our customers' expectations.
Hey, Steve Nesson, WNYC Radio. You didn't say how much you didn't say how you're gonna pay for it, but what is the cost to accommodate these 9,600 passengers? And it seems like a small number compared to the number of MTA passengers or riders that are affected every day by delays. Is there any summer plan to alleviate some of the delay problems?
So overall, we've been talking about improving the reliability of the subway system. We've talked recently about the corridor that we are working on to see what steps in that subway reliability improvement plan are effective and then can be rolled out system-wide. In terms of the individual elements of cost for this plan, we're really just pulling all of that information together. But at the end of the day, I do want to stress to our Long Island Railroad customers, you will not be paying for this. We will deal with this. We will explore all options in terms of how to pay for this summer.
Hi, Marla Diamond with WCBS. You spoke about the potential of a fare cut not happening this summer, but many customers are furious. There's been a lawsuit that was filed over the weekend by customers. Do you think that it would go a long way toward building goodwill if you offered some sort of discount this summer?
We, as I noted earlier, we've chosen to focus on providing service and creating a multifaceted plan, which we think gives customers as many choices as possible to inform what their commutation options are.
Working? Yes. So I have two questions. First, I just wanted to check my math. Is it correct to say that there will be basically a 20% reduction in LIR trains leaving from Penn Station in the evening? If you have 7 cancellations, 3 originating at Atlantic, 3 at Hunters Point, 4 from Jamaica?
It's the 7 cancellations are combined, and then the other trains are just originating from the different stations that we talked about, yes.
So roughly 20%. Okay, and then secondly, how much of this mitigation could have been avoided had Eastside access been completed on time?
I don't think that the Eastside Access program would have addressed the track issues that Amtrak needs to address this summer.
Natalie McLeori, WFUV News. Can customers really expect this project to be done on time? There have been other projects that haven't been finished on time, so can they expect this to be, the deadline to be met?
When I mentioned earlier that we're going to be watching the progress carefully, that's why, is because we want to keep Amtrak's feet to the fire in terms of managing to their schedule. And they have worked a plan. Our engineers have looked at it as well. They brought in an engineering firm to review their schedules to assure us that they can get the work done on time. But again, it'll be a matter of watching their progress and then keeping our customers posted on that progress as well.
Hi, Scott Pringle, WOR and NBC News Radio. I know you mentioned there's not going to be a fare reduction for the summer. I mean, a lot of passengers are calling for a refund for May. What do you say to that? And also, does any one of you three take the Long Island Railroad in?
So let me start by highlighting again where we chose to prioritize. You know, every system makes different choices, and we chose to prioritize on service. When I take the railroad, it's generally to go to a meeting in Jamaica or to an event at Citi Field. I live and work in New York. But more specifically, I do want to get back to making sure that our customers are aware of where they can get information. So in addition to the hard copies of seat drops and brochures and paper schedules that we'll make available to all of our customers, we are launching a website today. That MTA.info is the place to go. We will keep it up to date with every schedule and alternative service plan available, and really encourage people to take the time now and plan for what will be a difficult and challenging summer.
Hi. Hillary Russ from Reuters News. I'm just wondering, some of the repairs we haven't talked about yet are going to be happening later after the summer is over, and those might more directly affect, I think, the Long Island Railroad itself, right, in Penn Station. Have you looked forward that far ahead to figure out what other kinds of plans you're going to have to make for the later months when you will be more directly affected?
So we will be continuing to work with Amtrak on what their schedules are. It appears that most of the additional work moving into the fall time period, for example, will be done in the overnight hours and on certain weekends.
Emma Whitford, Gothamist. I may have missed this, but did you clarify what the pricing would be for the ferries and buses?
So if you're a monthly or weekly Long Island Railroad commuter, and most of our regular commuters are monthly ticket holders, There will be no charge. We will, what in effect is a cross-honoring system will be in place for those customers, whether it's on the ferries, whether it's on the city ferry, or on the express bus system that we're standing up.
Okay, we're going to do a couple more questions. So if anybody hasn't had a
Hello again. When will you issue the schedules? This week, next week? I know monthly passes have to be bought soon.
So the online versions will be popping up later today, and the paper schedules normally aren't distributed until shortly they go into effect, so as not to create confusion with customers who have two different paper schedules in hand. But again, the online information should be popping up later today.
We're going to do one more question for anybody who hasn't gone yet. Last question.
Angie, New York One. One of the things that you said is part of your four-pronged approach is the acceleration of bridge and tunnel construction. The governor put like a deadline of July 8th. Is that doable?
I think that there are projects that currently are on the RFK, on the VNB, at the Queens Midtown Tunnel and the U-Carry Tunnel, and that work will be accelerated to get done in time. Yes. Did you want to add something?
Yeah.
More questions. We'll have a, Joe?
No, just one statement. Someone smarter than me once said, you can't let a crisis go to waste. Amtrak has provided us an opportunity to be able to look at how Long Islanders commute into the city. The MTA has come up with a plan that finds 9,600 seats available and capacity available to deal with the direct problem, but they've supplemented that with 200 buses. They've supplemented that with a ferry system. They've supplemented it with more trains going into downtown Brooklyn, to Atlantic Station, and into Hunters Point. This is an opportunity to look at what's the best way, depending on where you work in Manhattan, if in fact you're coming to Manhattan. If you work south of Penn Station and you take a train to go south of Penn Station to the Wall Street area here, you might as well, take the train to Atlantic Station and then get on the 2 and the 3, the 4 and the 5, or any of the other 9 lines that are there that'll all take you to this location. This crisis is an opportunity to be able to look at new and different ways to make the commute as comfortable and as quick as possible.